I talk about my work as a lawyer and the law of ecocide is something that happened to me when I was at school. When I was 16, I went to a very different school from the school you're in here today. In fact, the school I was in was a school that was run, it was run by using a lot of violence to control children. Can you believe that? Schools actually used to be like that. Thankfully, the school's no longer like that. And what would happen is that if someone misbehaved, then teachers would punch the students, the kids, to try and control them. And one day, I decided I'd had enough of this. I didn't like it at all. And what I did was something that actually changed my life. And actually, it's the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing now. I stood up and spoke out against what I perceived to be an injustice. But I didn't do it very well. In fact, what happened was the art teacher had put a young boy up on a table to stand with one leg up because he'd caught him running around. But that boy couldn't keep his leg up for very long. If you try to do it, it's quite hard. And because he dropped his leg back down, he got him up against a wall and he was going to punch him so hard that I knew that that boy would end up on the floor because I'd seen it before. So what I did was I punched the art teacher instead. Now, I don't recommend you try this because half an hour later I was outside the school. But what it was I now know looking back, was that I was standing up for an injustice. I thought it was absolutely wrong that someone that was 4 times the size and height of this boy was going to use violence against him. And I took matters into my own hands. Now, meeting violence with violence is obviously not a good idea. I got thrown out of the school almost immediately. My parents thought I'd brought great shame on the family, and I was packed off to a completely different school instead. But the other school that I went to after that was like your school. What was so amazing for me was that teachers would ask me what my opinion was. That had never happened before in my life. And in fact, conversation would happen. And we'd talk about world issues, about what was happening to the planet, about what was happening politically at a global level. This really expanded my vision. And it really tapped into my deep sense of care for humanity, for people and for planet in a very big way. And it really shaped me in a very big way. And actually here was a school that valued what I had to say. I was valued as a person. And all of us as kids were valued. And in that environment, I really flourished. You know, after coming from a school which had so much fear, and everyone was actually very scared of the teachers and the violence that was being used, suddenly I was in an environment where creativity was something that was, you know, really encouraged. And big thinking was encouraged as well. And that really shaped me. And in a way, it was no surprise that I ended up becoming a lawyer, because I discovered using fists didn't work, but maybe using words and images could, to persuade individuals who were causing harm to think about doing it a very different way. So what happened to me when I was 16, I think, has great bearing on what I'm doing now today, because really this was pursuit of justice, and I actually directly experienced myself what it was like, and I saw what it was like when an injustice was playing out. And also what I did was I stood up and I spoke out, and unfortunately punched the teacher. But nevertheless, it was the standing up and speaking out. And when we do that, something sometimes happens, some magic happens, because you know, when we stand up and we speak out, it's kind of out of our comfort zone. It's very easy to just stay here and let what is going on in the world that we don't like happen around us. But when we do stand up and say, no, enough, no more, this must end, then actually we give permission for others to stand up and speak out as well. So what I'm doing now is I'm speaking out, really, unlike when I was 16, I was really a voice for that little boy who was being harmed. Now I'm speaking out as a voice on behalf of the earth. as a lawyer on behalf of the earth, an earth lawyer, if you like. And in fact, there's a whole emergence of a whole new body of law called earth law that puts people and planet first. And what I did was I proposed into the United Nations back in 2010 that we create a new law called ecocide. So this is to criminalize mass damage and destruction or loss of ecosystems. So deforestation in the Amazon, that's an ecocide. But we also don't just have human-caused ecocides, where it's because people are deforesting. There's also this naturally occurring ecocide. Rising sea levels. The Maldives are about to go underwater. Small island states, 54 of them, are threatened with going underwater because of melting ice and then rising sea levels. So this is really important. But also, for instance, yesterday I was speaking in Bhutan, in the mission of Bhutan, here in Geneva. And this is a country, they don't have human-caused ecocide playing out. They don't have deforestation. They're preserving their forests. But they're becoming victims of other ecocide that's affecting them. And one of the biggest problems they have looming over the horizon is the melting ice. So they have ice at the top of their mountains, but if that melts, it overfills their water tables, which naturally then give downstream the water that people drink. But when that overfills, then it floods and it wipes away communities and villages. But then once it does that and it's melted and it's wiped away the communities, there's no more water to drink. It runs dry. So this is a huge, huge problem for just one country. And that's as a result of climate change and shifting in the atmosphere that's creating problems with melting ice for them. So this is a country that's saying, we need help here. And what a law of ecocide does is it creates what's known as a legal duty of care to give assistance to help those territories that are going to be adversely impacted by naturally occurring ecocide. So natural disasters, if you like. And what I realized was that by proposing this into the United Nations, I could go down the normal route of doing this as a lawyer. I could go into the UN system and you'd never hear about me, and I'd try to get an amendment into a text and maybe a UN resolution, and then maybe we'll get something drafted up in a convention. None of that's legally binding. It's nice words, but it's not changing the world yet, which then may lead to a coalition of countries coming together, which then may well lead to eventually it gets discussed behind closed doors, which then may well lead to eventually we get it drafted, which then may well lead on to, and so on and so on. Oh my goodness, 200 years. I might not be around. I'm in a hurry. I want to see things happen. So very early on I decided, okay, I'm going to make this all public on a website. It's going to go out there. It's a big information portal, this website. It gives a lot of information about this law. So everything's open sourced. It's under what's known as a Creative Commons license, so that you can freely share this. And it occurred to me that this is really, really important, because, amazingly, ecocide very nearly became an international crime back in the 1990s, 18 years ago. And at the last minute, behind closed doors in the United Nations, it was decided it was going to be removed. Many countries objected, and many countries that had already said, we want this law. They didn't want it removed. But lo and behold, in a closed-door meeting, it was removed. Nothing more was heard about it after that. Now, because it wasn't out in the public, because there was no internet then, because it just wasn't known about, nothing could be done about it. But today, we can keep this very public. And today, it's really 1 degree of separation. You know, you can now actually send a Twitter to a minister. You know, you can Facebook someone in the UN. It's so amazing that we have these tools at our disposal, that we can send a link and say, here's a video. And one of the things that's on the website here is a video of me speaking. And that's gone in to many countries that I've legally advised. It's far easier to watch a video than read lots and lots of paper, of course. So we have lots of different tools at our disposal. I see you have here your own radio station, and also you're able to film. That's fantastic, that you have these tools that you can use and explore and make something constructive out of it. And you can even add music. So what I decided to do was take this out into the public domain. I was invited by a group of nations to put together a timeline as to how fast we could put this law in place. We can do this by 2020. This will happen in our lifetimes, that a law of ecocide will be put in place. And that's very exciting because that has huge implications as to how we do business, how we engage in the world, how we politically make decisions, because we start from a place of first do no harm. So we start with a legal duty of care to ensure what we do does not cause mass damage and destruction. And we start from a place of giving assistance. We're legally bound to give assistance to those who are adversely impacted by this. This is a huge law, and we're living through what's happening at the moment. But also, it's not just about the conversations that are happening with the ministers and the governments and the UN and the ambassadors. It's about us, we the people, individuals who can help make this happen. And one of the things that I was asked for, and in fact repeatedly now from different governments, is that they want to know that the public is engaging in this, because that helps them. They can say then, the public want this to happen. And so what we did was we put up a map, a Wish 20 map. Is it possible to, shall I use this computer, see if we can pull it up? Oh, I don't see it. I don't know, Marcus, are you able to pull this up? We could maybe pull up the map here. Yeah? Is that possible? Okay, he's disappeared. Does anyone know how to do it? I have a Mac, so I don't know how this works. Oh, right, okay, it's gone. It's disappeared. We'd like to pull up a page. Ah, okay. So, are you able to help? We've lost the website, and I don't know how to get another page of the website up.
Can you just work with the screen? Just tap wherever you want to go.
Oh, okay, okay. It says it needs a password at the moment. That's the problem. So while that's being put up, we'll pull that up in a minute. But one of the fantastic things is that right across the world, in many, many different countries, many people are starting to engage with the law of ecocide. I've now been speaking about this for 4 years, and I speak at universities, I speak at schools, I speak with the UN, I speak with governments, I speak with legal advisors, many different places. And so what we're now wanting to do is map support. Ah, like magic. Aha. Let's see what we can do. Almost magic. And many people are helping for free to help spread this as an idea. Because if we put it out into the public and we start creating projects around it and shining a light on it, then it really helps these ministers and the governments to say, this is important, we need to act on this. Now, so if I go like that. Yeah, okay, brilliant. So now here you see there's a map. And what has happened here is that people have put up their names to support this. So, I love this. You can sign this. Let's see if that comes up. No? Oh, maybe I can scroll. Yeah, okay, great. So what you can do is you can put in where you are, where you're from. You can upload a video, you can upload photos, and you can put in some information, and you can submit information. But what is so fantastic about it is that by doing this, maybe if I can go back to the map, is that you begin to get a sense of who, where, is doing what, and how many people are engaging in it in what country. You can go to different countries. Maybe if I can move this. Ah, okay, right, no. If you're on a computer, you can do this. And you can go in deeper and deeper. For instance, we could go into Switzerland and see how many people have signed here in Switzerland, how many people have signed in the UK, how many people have signed in the Philippines, and what they're doing. And I call it Wish 20 because it is my wish that we end the era of ecocide by 2020. Legally, I have presented the legal pathway that we can do this. A lot of the detail of the law is on the website. But the map itself is an invitation to invite other people to join me in my wish, and also to say what you are doing to help make this wish come true. So for some people, it's water issues, that water is being polluted through dangerous industrial activities. So that is an ecocide. So I was talking to an organization earlier today. So they're working on the legal research and information around that to stop pollution of rivers and to work on the right to a healthy environment. For others, it's deforestation. So Amazon Watch in the Amazon are working to stop mass deforestation and destruction of the Amazon. So lots of people come into this in different ways. For others, it's working to stop, to help the polar bears because of the melting ice. What do we do about that? Greenpeace are engaging in that because they don't want to see Arctic drilling happening. Oh, it's back. So the fantastic thing is that, if we go back here, is that there are many, many different ways of getting involved. And what we have here is a page, what you can do. Hundreds of different things that you can do to be involved. Keep updated. You can organize an event. You can invite me to come and speak. I'm here today. How wonderful. Spread the word. Discuss it. We even have a Navas petition. That can be signed. If you know someone that's got lots of money, you can invite them to be a heart-to-heart funder. I call it heart-to-heart funding because if this makes your heart sing, then I invite you to come and help me. You can take it into business. Actually talk to business about it, and we've got pages about that. You can write a love letter to the earth. Let me pull that up. We have a website called Love Letter to the Earth, and this was put up 2 years ago for Valentine's Day, where you can choose the image here that you like the most. These were submitted by artists from all over the world, and you can actually choose your image. Oh. And it will attach itself to an email. So let's choose that one, for instance. You can put your details. You can write a love letter to the earth, and then you can share it with someone else that you love. But it's a beautiful way of sending a beautiful image and saying why it is that you care for the earth and about the law of ecocide. So this helps also spread awareness and understanding about what the law of ecocide is about. So there are lots of beautiful ways, and in fact, I should go back to that. Where are we? The love letter to the earth. Many schools have actually gotten engaged about this, and we have, I think we had a school page up somewhere, I'm sure we did. And also you can see here, there's another map with hearts, where people have been sending this love letter all around, and different letters that have been written and been sent. And what we did in the run-up to the Earth Summit in Rio in 2012 was that we had thousands and thousands of people submitted their love letter to the Earth for us to present to Ban Ki-moon, and also to say that they supported a law of ecocide. So this is a hugely creative way of engaging around one of the biggest issues of our lives, actually, about how we connect with the earth and what we decide to do to ensure the health and well-being of not just human beings, but all beings for the planet. So I'm going to take you back now to the What You Can Do page. And this is also about how we can be bridges. Each and every single one of us can be a very powerful bridge where we can seed this into our networks. I see it very much like nature, a seeding exercise. Have you ever blown in one of those things, you know, it's a dandelion that turns and you blow it and it goes everywhere? And actually what you're doing is you're seeding many other dandelions to grow because there are seeds within it. And in a way, it's rather like that with what I'm doing. I'm seeding and I'm inviting others to seed. And take this as a bridge over to your community, your network, how you can engage other schools, other students. So you can be creative around this. Someone's made a rap about the law of ecocide. There are various films being made about it, short, long films, documentaries. Someone's made T-shirts about the law of ecocide. There's an open letter to world leaders that was again presented in a long, long document that stretched way across this floor, and it had signatures of everyone that had signed online, and that was taken in to the United Nations as well. So there's lots more suggestions here that really are how we can take it out. One school, they wrote about it, in fact 2 schools have done this, wrote about it in their newsletter. They have a newspaper. And when I was up in Norway recently, what happened there was I was interviewed by a 13-year-old called Kazi, and her pet rat called Ratty. Rats are actually very sociable human beings. They like human beings. We don't always think that about rats. It's a very nice rat. And she interviewed me for her school magazine. It's a Steiner school. Now, that magazine came out just before Christmas, and actually one of the fathers of someone else at the school, he's the senior editor of one of the top papers in Oslo, who then interviewed me, and as a result of that it was read by someone in their television who then wanted me to speak on their news channel, and so on and so forth. And every time it's a bridge. So actually the most important bridge of all was Kazi, because she interviewed me for her school magazine, because then it led to that, which led to that, which led to that. Another person, Edie, she heard me speaking at a conference last summer. She was age 12, and she invited me to speak at her school. 350 school children were brought into the school hall, and we had a wonderful afternoon exploring and workshopping the law of ecocide, and now they're doing a big project around that. So it's very exciting because there are many ways of engaging with this, and one of them is also, which is about engaging our local MPs, writing letters. I'm a great letter writer. I've written to the Pope, I've written to the Dalai Lama, I've written to many, many different people. But actually what happens is when they start to hear about it from lots of different directions, they go, you know, I need to take this really seriously. I have yet another letter from here and here and here. And talking about it, this is sometimes the most powerful thing of all, giving voice to a big idea whose time has come. Actually talking about it with someone else allows us to expand our vision of what's possible and how we can help change the world in our lifetimes. And that's what's so absolutely crucial here, that actually we are agents of change ourselves. We can make some magic happen here by seeding this out, by messaging it, by sharing it, by acting as bridges, powerful bridges to reach out into lots of different directions. So one of the most wonderful things that I've come across recently is what Marcus is working on. And this is absolutely fantastic, because this is also about taking it out into social media for young people. Because actually I think the beauty is that, you know, we, and I include myself as a young person, you know, I really do think we have a great opportunity to have our voices heard more than ever before. You know, the amazing thing is that we do have Facebook, we do have Google, we can find out information in so many different ways now, we can share it in so many different ways. You know, one of the people that really greatly inspired me was a young girl. She was age 21. Sophie Scholl was her name. She was German. And Sophie Scholl was a young university student at university in Germany during World War II. And she and a group of friends decided that they were going to stand up against Nazism. And what they did was, in the dead of night, they managed to get hold of a printing press, and they printed up their own newsletters, which was far harder back then than it is now. They didn't have computers, and they had to do this really top secret. And they took these newsletters and they posted them through people's letter boxes at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. They didn't have email then. And they'd run around in the city in the dead of night, escaping the police to do it. So this was a hugely dangerous thing to do. Now, Sophie Scholl is one of my heroes, all-time heroes, because what she did was, she decided in university, she went into university, she thought she'll tell everyone in the university about this, and they'd printed out thousands of leaflets. Now, if you've ever been in Munich's university, it has a main atrium, a main hall, and out of that go all the classrooms, and it goes up 3 floors. So she went up and she was putting leaflets outside every classroom so that when everyone came out they could pick up a leaflet. But the bell went early, and she was up at the top and everyone was coming out into the main hall, so she pushed the last of the leaflets off from the 3rd floor so they floated above everyone's heads so that they would grab them as they were coming down. Now, the janitor saw her do this, and he arrested her, citizen's arrest on the spot. And she was taken into prison, and not just herself, but also her brother and her friends, and they were put in court for actually going out there and campaigning against Nazism. Now, she wasn't given a voice in that trial. She wasn't allowed to speak, and 4 days later she was convicted, and she was actually convicted to death. So she was going to be killed for what she'd done. But at the very end of the trial, she stood up and she said, you know, people will remember this, and I hope that others in future will stand up and speak out for what they perceive to be an injustice. Now, she died for doing that at a time when it was very dangerous to do that. You know, we can now stand up and speak out without at least risk of dying for what we stand up for, or at least not in this country. But she did something truly remarkable and truly brave. Now, out of those thousands of leaflets, which of course were immediately banned, one survived. And it was smuggled out through Scandinavia, up through Norway, and it came then down back through Scotland down to Britain. Now, the amazing thing was on the day that the war ended, the British Allies flew over Germany and they dropped hundreds of thousands of copies of her leaflet right across the country from that one leaflet. Now, if you go to Munich today, what is so wonderful is if you walk on the stones, the cobblestones outside Munich University, that one leaflet is now stuck inside the stones so that you can always read it, it's there. What she did helped change the world. And she did it at a time. It was true courage, true bravery that made her stand up and speak out in that way. So every little thing we do creates a ripple right across the world one way or another. We may not realize it at the time, but there's some fantastic people who are doing some fantastic things and who are really just standing up, speaking out and being creative in how they can message. Now, Sophie Scholl, she didn't have Facebook, she didn't have the ability to film, she didn't have the ability to talk on a radio or put together, you know, a newspaper easily on a laptop. We have all of that now, which is so exciting. So there's so much more we can do in terms of how we message and how we allow our voices to be heard in so many different ways. So I say thank you very much for listening, and I invite you to explore the Eradicating Ecocide website. There's so much on here. You can download things as well, and there are lots of wonderful, not just documents, but also you see we've it keeps on disappearing. We have yes, here we are. It's gone again now. The Eradicating Ecocide YouTube channel, which has a lot of films as well. So people who just go ahead and start filming. We had a mock trial. It kind of wants to come and go, doesn't it? We had a mock trial in the UK Supreme Court. That's one of our ministers speaking there, where we road tested the law of ecocide. Now lots of schools hold their own mock trials. A school in England held a mock trial just 2 weeks ago. So a lot of work is there that can be used in a lot of papers. You can download all the mock trial papers, which you can then amend and use yourself as a starting point. And you can watch the videos to see how it was done as well. So there's a lot of exciting stuff there that allows you to look at this through lots of different ways. You can look at it through the lens of law, law for the planet, law for people, so humanitarian law as well as environmental law, the rights of future generations. You can also look at it as to what's happening in the Arctic, what's happening in the Amazon, so you can look at cases as well. Or you can engage in it in completely different creative ways as well. Artists are drawing pictures to highlight this as well. One community are putting together a book where people are writing chapters and poetry about the law of ecocide, which they're then going to publicise next year. And someone got in touch saying, I don't know how to write, but I do know how to put on a rock concert. Would you like me to put on a rock concert in aid of a law of ecocide? So there's big plans for that to happen next year as well. So this is exciting. So many different things we can do to engage in this. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.